A happy and a blessed Sabbath to you, believers. It's such a joy and privilege for us to welcome you on this Sabbath morning.
And a very special welcome to our children and the youth who are without their parents.
Believers, we are living in uncertain times. Although many countries and many states have been able to contain this virus, still there is a lot of uncertainty about the behavior of this virus in communities. But this is not the time for us to be afraid. In fact, as Jesus says in John 14, this is not the time for our hearts to be troubled. In fact, we have to be thankful. Thankful that we do have the surety of prophecy, which not only tells us about the times we are living in, but also tells us about the times to come. Thankful that every passing moment, every passing day, every passing Sabbath takes us towards the joy of meeting Him face to face. And last but not the least, thankful about God's protection around us. I would like to read to you a few verses from a very familiar Psalm, Psalm 91. Let's turn our Bibles to Psalm 91. I read from verses 4 onwards. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. What a wonderful promise, what a wonderful verse. In fact, Mrs. White, in Great Controversy, page 630, calls this Psalm 91, as a psalm of promise, especially for us who are living in the last days, in these times of trouble and peril. And talking about thankfulness, we are reminded of a story, something you might have seen in the media or read in the media, about a 92-year-old man who had got over his illness and was being discharged from a hospital in Italy. Before discharge, the doctor handed him a bill for just 1 day of ventilation, which came to a large amount of money. And looking at the bill, the old man started sobbing, sitting down on his bench. The doctor, looking at the old man cry, put his arm around the old man and told him, look, it's okay if you don't have the money to pay the bill. To which the old man looked up at the doctor and said, no, I do have money to pay the bill. I was just thinking about all these 92 years where I've been breathing God's air and I've never really paid Him for it. And I've never been really thankful to Him for all these years. Brethren, this is the time, in fact, we need to be thankful for God's protection around us.
Brothers and sisters, how do we find strength during this coronavirus pandemic, which has upturned our world in ways that we have never experienced before? It's not just a health crisis, but it's also a crisis of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. What do we do as believers? We would like to suggest 4 ways that we can not just survive, but thrive during this pandemic period. The first is to be in His presence at all times. Psalms 91:1 says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place is in His sanctuary, and to abide under the shadow of the Almighty is done by prayer, by reading His word, and by meditating. The second way to thrive at home is to spend quality time with your spouse and your family. Adventist Home says, Parents stand in the place of God to their children to tell them what to do and what not to do with firmness and perfect self-control. Every effort that is taken in love will cultivate the character of the child. The third way to thrive at home during this pandemic is to be a blessing to others. Take advantage of the social distancing and find ways to encourage your friends, classmates, relatives, church members via social media. Another way is to give generously, to provide financial assistance to your church, to your friends, neighbors, and the community where many people have fallen on hard times. The fourth way to survive or to thrive during this pandemic is always to have an attitude of thankfulness. Spirit of Prophecy says, if we would give more expression to our faith, rejoice more in the blessings that we have received, and appreciate the goodness and love of God, we should have more faith and greater joy. Let us contemplate on the 4 ways to thrive at home that has just been mentioned, so that we will spend a meaningful time during this lockdown. With this church, we would like to welcome you all as we share in the love of Jesus, which has bound us together to be the church that is preparing and waiting for the Lord Jesus.
So, believers, as we ponder on these words this Sabbath, let us all, as the psalmist says, lift our eyes up to the hills, from where cometh our help. Have a blessed Sabbath.